taped from Minneapolis, it's Artifacts, the show that brings the arts in the Twin Cities to you. On this edition, playwright Julie Marie Myatt, Hollywood film expert Bob DeFlores, a woman who doesn't own a TV, Linda Myers, who's really into books. In this month's performance spot, Interact Theater, plus roving reporter Gina Filigenzi talks to visitors to the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. All this and more on Artifacts, August 1999. Here's your host, a guy who looks up to Kermit the Frog, Phill Lindsay.
Hello and welcome to Artifacts, the show about the arts in the Minneapolis area. Well, it's August, nearly the end of the summer, and this month is bookended by festivals. The month starts with the Fringe Festival down in the Loring Park area, and we can look forward to the Mill City Music Festival over the Labor Day weekend. And we'll talk more about the music festival at the end of this show. Now, the Fringe Festival, let's talk about that. 10 venues, 11 days long, they've got 300 shows and loads of interesting titles. Here are a few of them. Back to the Blanket, the original native rave. Happy Meal, that's from the Ebullient Theater Company. I just love the name of the theater company, the Ebullient Theater Company. Spanking Private Ryan, the Free Fry Bread Telethon. Here's another one, Free Beer. Now that's a title, not a promise. Willie Loman is Dead and Gone. That's a romp, not a stomp on the Broadway show that's so popular right now. After the Yellow Brick Road, that talks about Dorothy on Thorazine and other issues. Knee Deep in Black Eyed Peas, Hair and Love. And for you juggling fans, Blink. That's a show you should catch. And my favorite title, Y2K and the Seven Dwarves. And then in the program here that they put out, there's this kind of odd headline here. It says, in case naked flamenco dancers from Faribault haven't satisfied your appetite for variety, and then they suggest you go out and eat here on Eat Street, which has a lot of great restaurants. I'm just not quite sure what the point is here about naked flamenco dancers from Faribault. I thought they were all in Mankato. I'm just not too sure about that. In any case, Loring will be roaring during the Fringe. And as I said, I really like that Y2K and the Seven Dwarves, but we won't put you to sleep with our big program. It's more than compliant. We've got playwright Julie Marie Myatt. And we're going to ask her what the heck she's doing here in Minneapolis. We've got film archivist Bob DeFlores. He's involved in preserving and sharing old flicks. The Open Book is a big project going on in downtown Minneapolis, and Linda Myers will be here to talk about everything from writing, printing, publishing, reading, and even buying books. And in our performance spot, I'm very excited about this, some folks will be on to give an excerpt from Fables, Foils, and Follies. Those are the folks from the Interact Theater. And let's not forget, Gina Filigenzi, our roving reporter, will be at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. And we'll be back with Julie Marie Myatt right after this art quote. Stay tuned. Well, I would imagine that a lot of people who might have writer's block would love to be able to go to the bullpen. However, our next guest, a wonderful woman named Julie Marie Myatt, she's new to town and she is ready to write. Welcome. Nice to have you on the show. And you are a writer. You're a playwright and you're a screenwriter. Now, of those two, is there one that takes precedence? Are you mostly a playwright? Or?
Well, when I was in LA, I was pursuing screenwriting more because that's kind of the whole gist of the place.
That's what you do there, I guess, yeah.
But I've kind of been in both since I started writing. But my coming to Minneapolis is about playwriting. So. And
we should tell people you're here as a resident at the Playwright Center.
Jerome Fellow.
A Jerome Fellow, that's the name of the program.
Yeah.
And is it through the Playwright Center? Okay. What is that all about? How did you hear about it and what do they expect you to do?
Well, it's pretty well known in the theater community, the Jerome Fellowship. And I had applied for it this is my third time.
Yeah. So it's very competitive is what you're saying.
Yeah, they pick 5 a year. And this past summer, last summer I thought, well, I'll give it another shot. I'm kind of ready, 2000 coming out, I want to be doing the same thing that I have been doing. So, and then I got it, so.
That's probably the best way to get something is to not make it, and then get it, because you knew it was competitive, and then you were good enough to get it. So that's pretty congratulations.
Yeah, so I said, well, I've never been in the Midwest, so this is a good time to
You've never spent time here?
No.
Okay, so you're really new to town.
Yeah, really new.
As we sit here, what, a few weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
What are your first impressions?
Well, it's just got, you know, for lack of a better term, it's just like it's such a different vibe
than Los Angeles?
Than LA. It's, you know, LA, because of the film business, just is, you know, everyone, wherever you go, people are looking at each other. Who's famous, who's, you know, because that's just part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
more self-conscious.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to be in a place where people are just sitting having coffee or, you know, and not, you know, turning their heads.
And not checking out the fashion statements that somebody's making or who's having a power lunch or something like that.
Yeah, it's no agenda kind of thing, and it's refreshing. It's hot.
It is hot. You did come in a heat wave at a point there, and of course you have yet to experience our winters.
No.
I'd like to interview you in about 6 months.
Right.
And see how you're doing. That's good.
Yeah. So.
Well, what kind of things are you writing? Now, do they care for the Jerome Fellowship specifically what you write, or is it just enough that you're a writer and you kind of made it in the gate and they say, no, you're here to write, just write?
No, well, you give a proposal for the year, what you want to do with the fellowship year, and they try and help you, try and accommodate you in whatever that proposal is. And I chose the subject I want to write about, or the play is about home, and to kind of investigate that through my writing this year.
Right. Now, when you say home, a specific home or home in a metaphorical sense?
In a metaphorical sense.
Okay.
You know, what that means to people and what that means to me.
Well, I know in talking with you that you were in a family that moved around a lot.
Right.
So home was sort of a movable feast.
Right.
Now, is that informing this particular proposal and project?
Yeah. I think I've told you this before, you know, that our couch was kind of, we put that in the living room and that became home, you know, because that was a familiar object.
Yeah.
And, you know, and as I've gotten older, you know, just kind of how objects define home, you know, whether it's you have nice things or whether it's just a pillow that you've had for years, you know, that can be your sense of home.
Sure.
So I kind of want to see what...
Well, that's interesting because I know you also are a photographer. And I now realize as you say that about home, that a lot of the images that you seem to capture and to highlight are images from your home. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to make ordinary objects heighten them in some way, you know, and like two chairs can almost look like two people, you know.
Well, if they're imbued with that personality,
right.
you know, that comes from being at home, I suppose. Yeah. Did being peripatetic as a young woman, as a girl, did that push you into the creative realms? I mean, you're multi-talented, obviously, photography, writing. I mean, was that part of growing up? I mean, was it something that the family encouraged you to do, or is it more of a reaction to the way you grew up?
I think it's more a reaction.
Yeah.
You know, because you spend so much time alone when you move around, you know, the first month, you know, I had my sister, but, you know, we were kids, we argued a lot and things like that, but you do spend a lot of time alone, so you have to, I think, pursue something internal and, you know, and whether it's writing or photography or art or drawing, you know, it's an escape from, you know, being alone in a sense. You
and
know,
find a way to express those feelings that probably all kids have.
Yeah.
But not many find a way to express.
Right. And I, you know, I'm leading certainly a very different life than my parents led. So I think it, in some way, is a reaction to.
Was there a certain writer or creative personality that inspired you early on? Somebody that you read or a show that you saw or something? That I want to grow up. I want to do that, or I want to do it right now, even before I grow up.
We had seen quite a bit of theater growing up. My mother was interested in that, so we would catch it now and then, and.
So it's familiar, is what you're saying.
And when I was in college, there was a new playwrights festival, and I just tried it. Decided to write a play and try it.
Oh, really?
And
did it make it in?
Yeah, and got in, was produced.
Early success. That's pretty good.
And once I saw something produced, I was hooked.
Oh,
you know,
well, there is, or in publishing too. I know you write that darn poem, and the first time you see it in the journal, you think, I could live with this.
Yeah, it's such, you know, it was such a great feeling, and I knew that I wanted to pursue it. So.
Other plays, other pieces of yours been produced around?
Yeah, and on a small level, some small things in New York, and I had a 10-minute play done at Actors Theater of Louisville a few years ago.
Those are good credits.
Yeah.
New York, Actors Theater. I mean, that counts.
Small stuff, you know. And part of this fellowship is what's great about the Playwright Center is they do kind of connect you up with many theaters and getting you more versed in the theater community.
Right.
You know,
the cross-pollination
yeah,
there.
exactly.
Now, you're one of how many Jerome Fellows at any given time?
Five a year.
Are they all here?
They're all here. In fact, 3 of them were chosen. They're Minneapolis playwrights, and 2 of us came from out of town.
Okay.
So.
But it's not a requirement that you stay here necessarily.
It is.
Oh, it is a requirement?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a requirement that you come for the year.
Okay, so the year's residency is literally a residency.
Right.
You got to find an apartment and stay here.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to know that Minnesota winter no matter what.
I'm kind of ready to, I've heard so much about it, I almost just want to experience it because, everyone's like,
well, we always
Biggie, it's so big.
We do a census count at the end of the winter just to make sure there are as many people here at the end of the winter as started. So before we go on, I wanted to get a look at a few of your images. And I know you brought a whole album, we can only see a few, but if you wouldn't mind showing our viewers just some of the more visual aspect of what you create here.
Some of these are just black and white. It's just kind of...
Still lives, image here?
I lived in this building, I was telling you before, that was built by Paramount construction crews.
Yeah, out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, because it was right near Paramount, and so it was built for actors and writers kind of in the 30s.
Isn't that interesting? So over here, I'm not sure what our
this is the
Is that part of the kitchen there? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just salt and pepper shakers. They almost look like a couple when you put them together, like a man and wife, So.
Sure, and I'm getting chess pieces out of them.
Right.
There's the king and a pawn or something standing there. So this is where you lived for a while?
This is where I lived, and part of the idea with the photographs was just to,
here are your chairs you were talking about here. This is nice.
Glorify.
Hold that for a second right there, yeah. Now is this a habit of yours that when you come to a new town, you go out and you buy some furniture and then you paint it bright colors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the yellow here. That's
this was my desk chair, actually.
Oh yeah, for writing?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Sometimes you need yellow in your life.
If you have another one, go ahead. I want to ask you a question about theater when we're
breakfast. There we go.
Okay. Sure. So this sort of documents your life.
Right.
Okay. Is this an ongoing project that you do?
Yeah, and I kind of, with friends as well, kind of making the ordinary things in your life interesting, and
just heighten it a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about theater. As someone who writes, have you ever acted? Have you been on the stage?
I was in college, yeah.
Okay, so you've had that experience.
I have.
This is almost literally your bread and butter. What's exciting in theater today to you?
I think first that comes to mind is it's live.
Yeah.
That it is truly a live, emotional event, group event.
You like the ensemble nature of it, the audience
the immediacy of it.
Are there any themes that are new these days, or are people working on contexts of things that they're writing differently than they were 10 years ago? Is your generation exploring something that we haven't heard about before?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I'll find that out this year.
Part of the experience of being a fellow here.
I think that there is, and like I said, my interest in going home, I think for a lot of writers, kind of in some way, going back to some of their roots and trying to discover, where they come from, who they are, and putting that personal take into their work, into theater, whether you're Asian American or African American or white, just
part of the identity issue of who you are.
And maybe those themes have always been there, but I think there seems to be a more personal emphasis on theater these days.
Okay. Does that make for smaller, more intimate productions rather than a large cast of
I think so.
18 characters or something?
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be Cats and,
yes.
and Rent and things like that. But I think that, the intimate theater is definitely happening.
Well, we've got just a minute left, and I wanted to ask you, a year from now, which is about the length of your residency here, what do you expect to have done in that amount of time? Is there supposed to be a play, for instance, or?
Well, yes, there is.
That's part of the deal.
Part of the deal.
Yeah.
But personally, I would like to I think, feel more at home in myself as a playwright after, you know, kind of this, after being in LA and pursuing the film business for that time, to be at a more resting point as a playwright, you know, and I think that Minneapolis is a great place to do that because it's so supportive of the arts and of theater. So,
well, I wish you the best of luck. I
Thank
think
you.
you're in for a good haul here.
Thank you.
Julie Marie Myatt, very nice to have you here. Well, coming up, our monthly news bits right after we go to see Gina Filigenzi talking with some folks at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Phil. I'm standing right on the edge of the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden, which happens to be the largest sculpture garden in an urban area in the United States. And it is great with all the wonderfully unique works of art and this beautiful, rich greenery surrounding. It makes it a wonderful place to be, and it happens to be my favorite place, especially in the summer. Let's see what other people think. Come on. So, do you guys come down here often?
No, this is our first trip down here.
First time.
Well, what made you decide to come down to the Sculpture Gardens?
Just have always heard about it, but never have been here.
So you just wanted to check it out firsthand?
Yep, had a little vacation, so we decided to come down here and spend the day.
Okay, it's a beautiful day for it.
A little warm.
Oh yes. What did you like the most about the Sculpture Gardens?
We kind of like that
Dome thing over there,
I
yeah.
don't know what it's called. The four pillars are the pillars, and then it had the dome thing over the top.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, enjoy your time at the Sculpture Gardens. So what brings you guys to the Sculpture Gardens?
Well, we came from Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
and we looked up in the Let's Go guide, and it said that one of the best things to do is come to see the Sculpture Garden.
So how do you like it?
A lot. I think we really liked it a lot. We've seen one in D.C., and we thought this one's bigger and maybe a little better.
Did you have a favorite work of art, a favorite sculpture?
I like the bunny on the bell.
Okay.
The flying bunny bar and the cherry.
That's a popular one. Yep, and that's definitely the most popular. Do you plan on coming back?
We're going to cross country right now. This is
Okay.
our cross country this is one of the stops going
This
across.
is one of your many pit stops.
Yep.
Well, enjoy your time here at the Sculpture Gardens and in Minneapolis.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This is my first time here.
And what brings you here?
My cousin has brought us here to kind of tour us around Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
Okay, and how do you like it?
I like it. I think it's a cute little place, and I like sitting in the shade here out of the heat and the
Found a
humidity.
cool
And
spot.
yes.
That's nice. What was your favorite sculpture, or what was your favorite part?
Well, we came to see the spoon, the cherry and the spoon.
And that's obviously the most famous.
Yes.
How did you like it?
It's cute. It's different. Yeah, it's cute.
A friend sent me a postcard of the spoon and the cherry,
And you had to see it in
and I had
person.
to see it. Yes,
That's great.
yes.
We're known for it. What is your favorite sculpture? Is it the spoon and cherry?
Well, I like the whimsicalness of it, but I think I also like the hair on the bell.
Okay. Okay.
That's one of the ones that I think has a particular whimsy also.
Do you plan on coming back?
Yes, actually, I am from Minnesota, and I've been in California for the last 13 years, so it's a joy to come back and
Well, it's
and
nice
see
to be back, I'm
This
sure.
garden is beautiful, and the flowers are wonderful. And I also like the fish that's in the with the palm trees.
The inside in the atrium area?
Yes. Yes.
Well, enjoy your time at the Sculpture Gardens.
I will. Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. One of the most popular attractions in Minneapolis, especially in the summer. And best of all, it's free. So come on down and enjoy the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. Back to you, Phil.
And now for some Artifacts news. Last month, Microsoft Corporation arranged to sell its online entertainment and activities guide, Sidewalk, to Ticketmaster. Despite heavy promotion and financial support, Sidewalk lost money and didn't meet expectations for pulling in advertising or classified ads. Ticketmaster expects to sell more tickets to internet users and package more extensive entertainment content with the service. Artifacts viewers may recall the executive producer of the Twin Cities edition of Sidewalk was a guest here exactly 2 years ago, just a month after the local rollout of the cyber service. At its height, Sidewalk existed in 77 cities. Ticketmaster is in 33. Well, it's called Arts Lab, and it's another fund created to help the arts. 5 Minnesota foundations contributed a total of $750,000 to the 3-year project. The idea is to build the capacity of 8 smaller metro area arts groups with organizational assistance in finance, marketing, and audience development. Participating foundations include Bigelow, Bush, Jerome, Mardag, and the St. Paul Foundations. The Stevens Group manages the program. How small is small, by the way? Well, budgets of the arts groups must be between $75,000 and $500,000. For further information, you can contact Eric Reese at the Stevens Group, and the number there is 651-641-0398. And finally, a youth mentorship public arts program is in the works for the Phillips neighborhood in South Minneapolis. The Phillips NRP Arts, Culture, and Ethnicity Committee expects the project to begin next year. However, 2 demonstration activities will happen later this year. They have assistance from Forecast Public Artworks. The end result will be public art improvements in the community. And that's the Artifacts News Bits for August. We'll be back to talk about film treasures with Bob DeFlores after this clip with Frank Sinatra and Louis Armstrong.
Soon somebody to call my own. I said, Daddy, somebody to call my own.
What's going to happen when you get that somebody?
Yes, and when I get somebody, ooh, then I'll be home.
I want to take for you, Daddy. I want a big, fine chick.
You do?
Yeah. Who'll think that I'm great. Man, she'll sit around and cry her eyes out every time I'm late.
That you said, Daddy.
Yeah,
Daddy,
she'll always call me Daddy.
Why don't you fetch it on home?
You better pack it up and get it back home.
Yes, you know, Daddy.
Yes, I want someone to love me. Ooh-wee. Someone all my own.
Oh, yeah!
And welcome back. You are watching Artifacts, and I'm Phill Lindsay. Now, just in looking at that clip, I think it's important to note that preserving films is an important activity, and also that films preserve our cultural history. And with me now is Bob DeFlores, a longtime film archivist, who, among many other tasks that he's involved in, is bringing a bit of Hollywood this month to Northeast Minneapolis. Bob, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and my compliments are very genuine and very sincere. It is important to preserve this major part of our American culture. How did you get involved in this? This doesn't come easy, I can't imagine.
Well, Phil, I started when I was 18 years old out in Los Angeles. I'm from California. My folks were in show business. My mother and father played in the movies, the Gina Westerns, and also my Aunt Iris was in Tarzan the Leopard Woman, a lot of the movies out in Hollywood. So I grew up in an area that had a lot of the movie stars, that lived in that area in North Hollywood. In fact, I was a neighbor to Ozzie and Harriet, and I went to school with David and Ricky
Did they
Nelson.
actually keep as nice a house as we saw?
Beautiful. Same house that you saw in the show.
Oh, they shot it there?
Yeah, right. No,
knew
they didn't shoot the show there, but the actual house was used.
Oh, okay.
When they opened the show.
Some exteriors.
And it's still there.
Okay.
And I went back just a couple weeks ago to see it. And
so you were in the field, as it were, and you grew up with it.
I grew up with watching my show business parents, not in the movies, nightclubs, just a little bit of everything, and I was kind of shy as a kid, and when I'd go to the theater, I'd just watch Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and all these wonderful entertainers, and that kind of gave me some escape, like back in those years. Then I started basically collecting when I was 18, and I didn't even have a projector, but a lot of people in Hollywood would give me some of their films, and then at that time there were camera stores that sold films for the home market. And then I started to find a lot of rare films over the years, and like I said, I've been doing this for 40 some odd years and developed quite an archive of over 6,000 movies.
That's an extensive holding.
Right, it is.
Now, it started out avocationally, but it's become a career.
Well, going on 23 years full time, wow. And it's really been rewarding, not just so much for the income, but a lot of the people you work with and meet. I've helped Ginger Rogers, I've helped Fred Astaire, I've helped Bing Crosby. I was work on all the Bing Crosby
When you're
specials.
on call for a number of special events, I think you've mentioned the Grammys.
Grammy Awards call me up usually every year, and they're always looking for footage of whoever they're paying tribute, Count Basie or whoever.
And did you just say something about Shirley Temple, too?
Shirley Temple this year at the Kennedy Center Honors. Her segment I supplied most of the film for.
Right. And biography?
Biography, any biography, HBO, Where Have You Gone, Joe DiMaggio, a show that's airing now called Legendary Hollywood Homes, which is about all the old homes out in Hollywood. And I never had to advertise. Everything's been word of mouth. Yeah. People find out your name, and they.
Well, you become the record and the resource of
it's all built just on its own, actually, and I'm glad that it's gone this far.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about your career, but I want to go back to the clip we saw of Frank Sinatra and Louis Armstrong there. That was a lovely clip. Where did that come from, and what was the nature of that?
Okay, Frank Sinatra had a series in the early 50s, and they were actually 15-minute shows. Some of those are quite scarce. There's not the whole series available. And as I hunt around the country for not just nitrate movies that were shown in the theater, I also am interested in early television. So that particular print, it comes from a 15-minute show that's kind of unique, and it also, because I love jazz and have a large jazz archive, has Louis Armstrong, but it's quite poignant seeing both of them together, and they're kind of clowning around there.
When you could tell they liked each other, too. I found that kind of touching, actually.
Yeah, it was really a good clip.
In their field. That was
neat. And then the clip that follows that, if you'd had more time, Louis plays a number called I'm Confessin', but I thought it would be nice to just show the two of them, in the opening.
Nice. And an early television history.
Right, early television show with Frank Sinatra.
Well, tell you what, you were kind enough to bring a couple more clips, both of which we're going to see, one after our interview. But right now, let's take a look at another clip you brought, and this has Fats Waller.
This has the famous Fats Waller, which there's very little footage of. He played in about 2 or 3 movies, and then he made a series of soundies, and that's what you're going to see as one of these soundies. They were played in jukeboxes in the early 40s. If you went into a nightclub or a bar, you'd walk over like you'd go to a record player, put a dime in, punch up your artist, and there would be on the screen in the bar whoever, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, a band of the day. And this is he's playing his signature tune, which is Ain't Misbehavin'.
Well, let's take a look at that, and we'll come back and talk about it. So here's Fats Waller, Ain't Misbehavin'.
No one to talk with all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. You fine rascal, you. I know for certain the one I love. I'm through with flirting, it's you that I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you, just you. Like Jack Horner in a corner, don't go nowhere.
What do I care? Your kisses, my dear, are worthwhile waiting for. Believe me, dear.
Don't stay out late, ain't got no place to go. I'm on my body, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you.
Well, that was lovely, and again, just a nice energy in there.
Yeah,
now, a soundie, you said a few minutes long.
Right. Actually, James Roosevelt, the son of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, formed a company, and they made these little 3-minute musical films, and they made over 2,000 of them for the, like I had mentioned, the bus stations, hotels, bars in the 40s. Actually, it's from 1940 to about 46.
Okay.
And they made 2,000 of them, and some are good, some are bad.
I suppose.
Some have great artists, like you see, like Fats Waller. And you have Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong.
And you said in your collection you have about how many?
I have 1,500 of the 2,000, and I would say I have the cream of the collection, because there are a lot of soundies that weren't that great. They had artists in them, but they're not the...
I've always heard that Michael Nesmith of the Monkees went on to sort of create the beginning of this whole MTV music video thing. But what you just showed us
this is,
really is the precursor.
These are the originals, and they were on film.
Yeah.
And there again, I'm still looking for more. They're out there somewhere,
You're based in the Twin Cities.
Right, yeah, I live here in the Twin Cities.
Is it difficult to do what you do here, considering that people want you all over?
No, in
and
fact,
why are you here?
Well, I moved here. I came from actually California to Kansas City, and then from Kansas City to here. And I was art director for Ellerby Architects for many years. On the side, I was doing the movies. And then in 1977, I left Ellerby and then went into the movies full time. And so I've been doing that for 20 some odd years now. But like I'd mentioned, this is a good city because of the opportunities that you can have here, and it's a very art, cultural city. And so this might not have happened to me in some other city, like Kansas City. So when I came here, Channel 5 had me on whenever they would have a guest in town like Fred Waring or Guy Lombardo. I'd be on the show with them and then show a rare clip of them. And then finally that kind of got you known around the Twin Cities, and then I traveled around the country showing films for a while, and then I supplied clips for documentaries. And like I had mentioned earlier, it all started just from word of mouth.
One thing led to another.
Yeah, I've never had to advertise.
Well, one of the things that I've respected about you is that Hollywood doesn't just keep you in thrall. You're also a grassroots kind of a guy. And
right.
I know you're bringing, again, some films up to Logan Park in Northeast Minneapolis.
Sure.
You want to outline? I know there's one this month and one in September.
Right. On August the 18th, which is a Wednesday night, and it starts at 8 o'clock, and it's it goes from, I think, 8 to 10. We're showing a rare Jack Benny compilation that was done in the 60s. It kind of highlights of his whole television career. Harlem Globetrotter basketball short from the 50s. Some soundies again, in fact, the one we just watched here a while ago. And then some cartoons. And it's a kind of a family in the park series for the kind of arts and cultural, community of the neighborhood. And it's being very well received. And then in September, the 18th, we're going to do a jazz night with Louis Armstrong and then a lot of other jazz artists, for
like
2 hours.
Fun.
And that, again, it starts at about 8 until 10.
Okay, and that's Logan Park in
Logan
Northeast
Park
Minneapolis.
in Northeast Minneapolis, yeah.
We've got a few minutes left, and I wanted to ask, what's the source? Where do you get this incredible archive? How do you find 1,500 of the soundies and old Ginger Rogers movies?
Well, it's like being a detective, Phil. You got to hunt all over the country. Believe it or not, most of the films aren't at the studios anymore. They're in private collections, overseas archives. I find things in barns, attics, basements, people who worked in the industry that have something in their garages that were part of Hollywood. I send them to the American Film Institute for Preservation or Library of Congress. I usually get a print for donating the original nitrate. And I've become real good friends this last year with Hugh Hefner, who funds a lot of the old movies, the restoration. So he has restored about 50 or 60.
I did not know that about him.
Yeah, and so
committed to
there are a lot of organizations like the Getty Foundation that are into film preservation.
When you mentioned the nitrate, the silver nitrate, of course, and some folks maybe know, but that was the chemical that was used in those days, which basically deteriorates.
Right, up till 1950, all movies were on nitrate cellulose.
And they're just degenerating.
They turn to powder after a while, or they're flammable. You can't even smoke near them.
Wow.
But now they're trying to preserve all those, and Ted Turner's done a wonderful job restoring a lot of his collection.
Wow. Well, Bob, we've got now just a moment or so left, and you did bring us another clip, and I found it fascanating. Can you describe this? There's some dancing and some music going on.
This is one of my favorite dancers, Eleanor Powell, probably the greatest female tap dancer. In 1941, the studio decided to do a test for the movie Lady Be Good, which was released by MGM. As you're going to see, there's a split screen. With her on the left, that's what the people in the theater saw. People on the right never saw the movie being filmed, and that's what you see as the camera crew. This was found in the vaults.
That's going to be great. Now, before we ring off, Bob DeFlores, if people want to get hold of you and your good work, there's a phone number they can call?
It's area code 612-866-3186.
The Film Archives of Bob DeFlores.
That's it.
Well, I want to thank you very much
Thank
for being
you very
on
much,
there.
Phil.
Thanks
you
for your
enjoyed
good
it,
work. Yeah. Now, in a little bit, we'll be talking about a new facility that's being developed on Washington Avenue. It's the Open Book. Linda Myers will be here. But before that, let's take a look at this very interesting clip from Bob DeFlores. And do note the split screen. It's interesting. Well, that was fun stuff, and I agree with Bob that TAP is really fun to see, and I thank Bob DeFlores for those clips we just saw. By the way, you are watching Artifacts, and I wanted to remind people that we do have a hotline. If you've seen anything or anybody on the show you'd like to know a little bit more about, you can call that number. It's here in the Minneapolis area, 612-673-2234. Well, our next topic is about a big project, a big development along Washington Avenue in the downtown Minneapolis area. It's called the Open Book. And with me to talk about that is Linda Myers. She herself is the executive director of the Loft Literary Center, and I understand that she reads addictively and doesn't even own a TV set. So Linda, nice to have you here.
Hi, Phil.
And is it
Nice
true
to
you
be
really
here.
read a lot?
Well, I need to, and I love to. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have found work where I'm expected to read, and I get paid a little bit to do that.
Now, nothing beats having a career, a job, and doing what you love at the same time. That's great.
right.
So congratulations. And you are the executive director of the Loft, and for those 3 or 4 people that are watching that don't know what the Loft is, would you describe that center?
I think that the Loft is one of Minnesota's well-kept secrets in some cases. Nationally, we're known as the nation's largest independent literary center, and we serve about 50,000 writers and readers a year in Minnesota.
That's impressive right there, 50,000.
Right, right. This state is so wonderful for writers and for readers because we have so many fine literary presses, we have great library systems, and
long winters.
Yes, exactly.
That's the reason you got to spend some time there. But you mentioned that, and some of these folks that are part of the writing and the literary and the book arts are now also partners with the Loft in this exciting project called the Open Book. Well, again, a lot of people probably don't know about the Open Book, and that's the relatively new name for an exciting project.
That's right, that's right. In 1996, the Loft had what we called a Future Search Conference, and we brought about 100 people from across the country and from Minnesota together to say, what does the future of literature in Minnesota need? And everybody said a space, a home, a physical reality. And unlike theater and music and visual arts in this community, literature hasn't really had a home. And we began meeting with about 30 organizations and finally narrowed it down so that the Loft, the Milkweed Editions Literary Press.
Right, and they're a publisher.
They are a publisher, a fine nationally known publisher again. And then Minnesota Center for Book Arts, which makes books, the book is art, binds books, makes paper, does letterpress printing.
Right, in other words, those aren't really the folks that are writing the content of the books so much, although I know that some of their people are creating art books that have their own content in it.
Right.
Yeah, they have a wonderful, so we've had a couple of their visiting artists on the show in the past, and it's amazing what those
That's a
folks do.
unique center in this country. And so the 3 organizations worked together. We looked at 28 sites. We finally decided on 1011 Washington Avenue and had hundreds of people contribute ideas about what this facility needed. And it will also include the Hungry Mind bookstore.
Yes, you have
That's
some
one of our
interesting tenants coming in, and
That's
I
right.
think a lot of heads kind of perked up when they heard, and I've been spreading the word that the Hungry Mind, because that's a wonderful independent bookstore. Their main space is in St. Paul,
That's right.
near McAllister College,
That's
and they're
right.
going to open up a bookstore in your facility.
That's right, along with a cafe. And one of the things that could not have happened, Phil, without these 3 organizations coming together is the creation of some common spaces. None of us alone could have afforded a wonderful performance space,
And that's
for
going to
example.
be in the mix here as well.
Right. At the Loft, our well-known writers from around the world come and perform in an old gymnasium.
Right. Well, you're currently at the old, and it is old, the old
Right.
Pratt Community Center in
That's
Prospect
right.
Park.
That's
and
right.
I've come to readings there, and it works.
Right.
But it's not what you'd call a charming space
Right,
for writers
right.
to read.
And the new space won't be intimidating or glamorous. It'll be beautiful, restored old brick walls in this
Oh, that sounds
100-year-old warehouse.
Will it be exclusively for performance of reading, or would you verge into some performance
We'll
of other
probably
types?
do some interdisciplinary things, certainly play reading, some music and literature,
But
a
primarily
little dance or movement.
for authors and writers
Right.
to do.
And performance art, performance poets.
Did I read in some literature too that another space in there, or at least you'll accommodate book club readings?
Yep. There will be a book club room,
Yeah.
and people who are members of book clubs who would like to meet in a more neutral site and not worry about cleaning their houses and who
you
has
know
to
us too
cook.
well. That's exactly right. Yes.
Can rent the book club room for a nominal amount and have the event catered by the cafe.
It'll be right on site.
That's right.
Yeah, and then go browse at the Hungry Mind.
Absolutely.
That's right.
There
Well, I
will
hope
be-
my book club is watching the show because we're going to be here at the open book sooner or later. That's great.
There also will be a literary commons area, we're calling it, so that people, after they take a class at the loft or go to a reading or work on their bookmaking downstairs, could come up to the second floor, sit on sofas, sit at little tables, talk about a manuscript or a book project.
Kind of an informal space.
Right.
Sounds almost like a campus kind of a
Well,
setting.
exactly.
Which goes into your background a little bit. You were in, I guess what you'd call the liberal arts. You were a
Yes.
dean at a local college.
Right.
Over at Hamlin. Yeah.
Right.
So this must be a thrill for you to not only run the program that you do, but to be part of this developing facility.
That's right. We're talking about this as a learning community for book lovers and a neighborhood for the book arts.
From the writing to the creation of the artifact itself
Yep.
to the reading of it.
That's right. And then the selling of the
And the
book.
selling, that's right, too, sure.
And talking about the books. And there will be studios for writers, which writers can rent private studios. There will be book
So you
art
have the loft
studios.
and you'll have actual garrets?
Yep.
For the
Yep.
writers? That's
Yes.
great. You mentioned that you searched, what, 28?
28 sites. This was a little bit like buying a house with 87 of your best friends.
And these are the stakeholders. When you say 87,
That's right.
these are what, board
The
members,
board-
staff members?
Yep, board and staff of 3 organizations. And of course, we're all nonprofits. And even though we are unique in the nation and kind of among the best of our kind of organization, to come together in this way is unique across the country to collaborate. But we have a budget, of course, and 87 people have our own ideas about everything from how to design the building to what's our budget and where's it going to be.
Well, speaking of that very specifically, 28 different sites, you ended up 10th and Washington Avenue. Very exciting corridor, actually,
Right.
not too far from the University of Minnesota, downtown Minneapolis. But why that building, why Minneapolis? What piqued your interest in that particular site?
We were committed to being in an urban area. We did consider both cities and what was available at the time. We considered building or renovating.
A new building or new
Right.
construction, yeah.
We love the idea of renovating. We wanted to be near public transportation. If we get light rail transit, we'll be about a block and a half
that's
from
true,
one of
yes,
the stops.
yeah.
We're on bus lines. We're just one turn off several major freeways. So
And
the
right near
location-
that great river, the
That's
Mississippi
right.
there, so it's a great
That's right.
location. That's
Near the
wonderful.
river, there's a lot of development in that area, as you know, and about a 7-minute walk from the West Bank, where the arts and the English department and a lot of growth is going to be occurring in the next few years.
You brought with you a couple of images I'd like our viewers to
Yes.
see, and the first one here is a schematic of the different levels. And could you just briefly walk us through what your customers, your visitors, will see on each level here of the open book?
Well, you'll enter on South Washington Avenue, and as you first come in, you will see on your left the Minnesota Center for Book Arts, and there you'll see paper made, you'll see letterpress printing, you'll see book binding, you'll see the artists at work. And I rather irreverently called this the Camp Snoopy of the book building because it's what will be fun to watch.
Kind of the
and
gee whiz part of it.
That's
it's like,
right.
Look at that press and these artists in
That's
action.
right. It's something that people don't often see. On your right, you'll see the main level of the Hungry Mind bookstore and the cafe. And then there will be a wonderful entry area that will have information not only about the Loft and Milkweed and Minnesota Center for Book Arts, but all the other literary and books organizations in the cities, so that people can come and find out what is happening at other literary organizations,
great resource.
who's in town, really see this as a gathering place, not only for the 3 partner organizations, but for book lovers all over the state. Then there will be a very dramatic stairway that has been designed by our architect Garth Rockcastle and a book artist by the name of Karen Worth. and I can show you that in a moment. But the stairway will lead us up to the second floor, and there we will have the performance hall, which will seat about 250 people.
Oh, that's a good house, yeah.
Very, very good size. There will be classrooms for the loft classes where writers teach other writers and where writers teach readers as well.
And in part, this is where those 50,000 folks are coming
That's
through.
right. That's
in
right.
their year, yeah.
Also, that's where the commons area will be, which I think of as a kind of upscale student union where folks will hang out and talk and discuss their art or discuss the books they're reading or creating. And also there will be on the second floor the administrative offices of the loft, a resource library so that people can come in and find a corner where all the books and materials will be gathered. Let's say, so you want to be a writer? Well, come to the Resource Center and look at what is available. Also on the second floor will be a kind of a green room for the artists who are performing,
For that performance.
and a kitchen so that we can stage catered events and social activities. Then our dramatic stairway takes us up to the third floor, which is more classrooms, a community book club room, and then there will be some offices there, administrative offices for Milkweed Editions, and some rental offices. We've been talked to by a number of literary groups that would like to rent
Just have
space.
their office there.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Well, let's flip over to the other image here, and this is a rendering of,
Yes.
let's tilt it a little bit towards that camera there. Now, this is a rendering of
This is the
Garth
stairway.
Castle stairway.
Right. And I can't be as eloquent as Garth, who's married to a novelist, actually, and talks about space and metaphor. But the stairway will actually work like a book, and it will open up as the leaves of a book do. There will be words created, and so as people climb the stairways, they will actually have the experience of a piece of art that they are participating in and of a book as if they're reading it and opening it out.
And you mentioned he's working with an artist
Yes.
who will put presumably some of these images within the sculptural texture
Yes.
of this.
Exactly.
What a nice signature piece to a facility like the Open Book.
That's right.
That's
That's
great.
right.
Thank you for that and walking us through that. Timeline here, we're sitting here kind of the end of the summer, 1999. When do the doors open and when can people come in and take the classes and hear the performances?
We hope the grand opening will be in April of the year 2000. The construction is going on now. All three organizations hope to move in the end of this year and early January 2000 as the millennium dawns.
So not too many months away.
Not at all.
That's
not
great.
at all.
Last thing I want to ask you, if people want to find out more about the Open Book and in particular the Loft, because I think this is where the number is, can people call you?
Yes, certainly. We've raised about half the money. It's a $5.5 million project for Open Book, and if people are interested in more information, the number is area code 612-379-8999.
And they could get not only information, but if they wanted to donate, they could be routed to someone to
Absolutely.
accept their checks.
It would be a great legacy. This is going to be as important to the book world as the creation of the Guthrie was to regional theater 35 years ago.
Wow. Well, a welcome addition. Linda, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
It's been fun.
Well, next up, Interact Theater will be here, and they'll be doing an excerpt from one of their pieces. It's called Fables, Foils, and Follies. Stay tuned.
Everyone has beliefs. Although there was a point in my life when I had lost all sense of hope. I felt lonely, deserted, betrayed. I didn't know what to believe in anymore. I was laying in my hotel room at this El Rey, a skid hole hotel for $2.50 a night. I had no job, no prospect. I was crying, and suddenly this voice appeared unto me and said,
"We are angry at the way they've been treating you."
I looked over my shoulder and saw black smoke forming into the room. I asked, "Who are you?"
I am your thinking mind. You are my physical body.
Then the ghost sat down upon me and entered my body, and I became the man. From that day on, I would walk around and act like I was God. I would approach people and ask questions like,
Do you believe in God? Do you believe in the soul?
The soul is the light of the mind that contains the thought.
The soul is the light of the mind that contains the thoughts. The soul is the light of the mind that contains the thoughts. Yes. To be aware is to be alive.
But people were not always that friendly.
So, you think you're God? What have you done for me lately?
Why are all the people starving?
What about all the wars? What about all the people that are suffering?
Why am I poor?
So, you think you're God? What have you done for me lately? You haven't done a thing for me, so you think you're God?
Why are all the people
You
starving?
think you're God?
Why am I poor?
You're not
Why am I
God.
poor?
Who's God do you
Why
think
am
you
I
are?
poor?
You're crazy anyway, you know that?
Why am I
You're
poor?
crazy, man.
Suffering, huh?
Welcome to St. Peter's. Patient found in a delusional state.
This guy needs psychiatric treatment.
People thought I was nuts.
Doctors, what type of meds do you think we should put him on?
They put me in a mental institution.
You know, I do believe he might
need lithium.
Lithium, yes.
Twice.
Thorazine.
Interesting. But you know what, doctors? We should probably go over his files from his previous visit to the state hospital before we make a decision.
I agree.
Do you agree?
Yes.
I had to pretend I was not God in order to get out and escape from the needles. Aside from being locked up, I slept for 5 years. Sleep and eat, sleep and eat. I got to be 230 pounds. Then I ended up in a halfway house. There now, they saw all the poetry that I had written all along and told me about a company that was just forming called Interact. So I got dressed, put on my best suit, a $600 suit, you know, by the way, and picked up my briefcase, got my work together, and I'm out for the interview. Well, I get there at the interview, I help build the walls, lay down the carpets, open up the doors, and ever since I've been acting on stage, I've been able to act out the characters in my life stories, including God and the devil. I've been helping writing plays. I've been dancing, singing, performing, because I've got dreams. Big dreams. 21 poems and 33 screenplays under my belt. And that's why I'm here. Grandiosity with good cheer. To write, to act, to sing, to be a winner. To write, to act, to sing, to be a winner. It hasn't been easy. I feel queasy. I've been locked up, shut up, told I'm out of touch. That's a rush. I've been bored, ignored, and told I'll never amount to much. Ha ha. Double Dutch. But I've got dreams, and that's why I'm here. And I had dreams, my dreams have brought me here. Call them delusions of grandeur, that's for sure.
All right, Dan.
Take the tour. And that's why I'm here. Grandiosity is why I'm here.
Hey.
To write, to act, to sing, to be a winner. To write, to act, to sing, to be a winner. To write, to act, to sing, to be a winner. To write, to act, to sing, to be a winner. To write.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, what you've just been watching is an excerpt from a longer piece by the Interact Theater, and with me is Jeannie Calvert, who's the artistic director of that organization. What did we just see, Jeannie?
You saw an excerpt from a show that the performers were just in Madison, Wisconsin, and they performed at a storytelling conference.
Oh.
And it's called Fables, Foils, and Follies. And they're all stories from their own life. They're true stories. Damon's story, that really happened to
Wow.
him.
Well, I love the content about what we're here to do and how the art can help us be ourselves.
Yeah.
That's wonderful stuff. And now the theater is part of sort of a larger organization that you head up. Can you tell us what the Interact Center is all about?
We started off as a theater, but now we are an art center for the visual and performing arts. So we have our performing group here that's actually quite a bit larger than this, about 20 performers, and we have about 20 visual artists too.
Oh, that's quite an ensemble on both sides of that.
Yeah.
And you have a space in the Minneapolis Warehouse District.
Yes, right behind Moose and Sadie's
Okay.
at 212 3rd Avenue North.
And I understand you have an ongoing art exhibit that's up right now as our viewers are watching this.
Yes.
You've got a great show.
We have an art exhibit of new works that's going to be going till September the 16th, when we will have a new art opening. Every 2 months we have a new show of new works. And then October the 15th we will open our show Bubba Nielsen Endangered Species 2000, which is a remount of a show that we did like 5 years ago that was very successul.
And will some of these good folks be part of that show?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, get cracking, everybody. That sounds good. Well, Gina, I want to thank you and all the members of this cast that came on. It's great. I look forward to seeing the show. There's a phone number for Interact that people can call to find out about programs.
612-339-5145.
And that number once again is?
612-339-5145.
Okay, so check it out, Interact Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back to wrap the show up after this interesting art fact, so stay tuned. And welcome back. And of course, that's an interesting art fact, and so I'm planning on going to as many cultural events as I can. At this point in the show, we like to say thanks for watching and to mention just a few brief items that might be of interest to those of you who enjoy the arts here in the metropolitan area. If you're into literature, and a lot of our guests talked about literature and writing in one way or another on this edition of Artifacts, there's a new online service called Minnesota Reviews Online, and what it is an electronic review of Minnesota publications. And you can dial that up on the internet at www.mnbooks.org/CFB. Sounds like a nice project's coming out of the Minnesota Center for the Book. Also, wonderful exhibitions going on. The Norwest Corporation donated recently a fantastic collection of decorative arts to the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. And you can see part of that great collection, about half of it actually, at the Institute of Arts in South Minneapolis. And at the Norwest Tower in downtown Minneapolis, there's some wonderful images you can see. They've got a great fin de siècle show going on down there. So I just wanted to call that to your attention. And as we mentioned at the start of the show, this is a month bookended by great festivals. The Fringe Festival at the beginning of the month, and at the end we can look forward to the Mill City Music Festival. Of course, that happens over Labor Day, September 4, 5, and 6. Lots of music in the lineup. Their basic mission is to introduce people of all ages and cultures to the rich diversity and powerful tradition of Minnesota music. And so what they've got kind of daily themes, like on September 4th, the Saturday, they've got Best of the Decades, groups like the Honey Dogs, Ipso Facto, Curtis A., Flaming O's, the Fendermen, Del Counts, the Castaways, Danny's Reasons, the Underbeats, it goes on, the Trashmen, and let's not forget the Jayhawks. A lot of other groups there too, Kerner, Ray, and Glover. Now Sunday, September 5th, it's a very eclectic mix. Dixie and the Cannibals, Willie Wisely, he's been a guest on this show, Martin Zeller, the Senders will be there, Willie Murphy, the inimitable Willie Murphy, and the Excelsior Gospel Choir, that sounds like fun, and Semisonic is going to be there. And they wrap it all up on Monday, September 6th with a rhythm and blues group, various groups, the Steels, Alexander O'Neill, Gene Adams, Lamont Cranston, the Peterson family, Debbie Duncan, a whole lot more. The Time will be there. So that's all happening at the Mill City Music Festival, downtown Warehouse District, over the Labor Day weekend. Now, next month, of course, here on Artifacts, more from the cultural cavalcade we call Minneapolis. And one of the guests is going to be Jack Walsh, a veteran actor in the Twin Cities area. And as we mentioned earlier, if you'd like to find out more about people that have been on the show or activities, call the City Cable 34 hotline. That's 673-2234. And get your pencils and paper out, because we have our usual calendar events at the end of the show. I'm Phill Lindsay. We'll see you next time on Artifacts. So long.
don't you fetch it on home.
You better pack it up and get it back home.
Yes, you know what you gotta do.
Yes, I want someone to love me. Ooh-wee, someone all my own.
Oh, yeah.